What really happened behind HYBE's shocking ban on Jungkook from meeting Jimin? Is this the end of their friendship that has always looked perfect? Find the answer now. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe so as not to miss the next developments. Why are suddenly the two closest members of BTS, Jungkook and Jimin, no longer seen together? What made HYBE officially issue an internal ban that left the public and army around the world reeling? And what is most surprising? Does this all have to do with an incident that has been hidden from the public? It all started with a moment that wasn't captured on camera, but it changed everything. A moment that was never even discussed by the Korean media, but internal leaks began to creep in through the inaudible voices behind the scenes of the South Korean entertainment industry. And now, finally, HYBE decided to speak up. Not with a light statement, but a confession that shook the foundation of the relationship between BTS members who had been considered solid. Many wondered, what could make a big company like HYBE, which has been protecting the privacy and togetherness of BTS members, suddenly issue restrictions against two of its most famous members because of their proximity? Jungkook and Jimin aren't just co-workers. They are best friends who grew up together, laughed together, even cried together in the midst of the cruel pressures of the entertainment world. But that all changed mysteriously and suddenly in less than a week. ARMY began to realize this gap from small signs. There is no longer any warm interaction behind the stage. No one mentioned each other's names in the interview. Even on Jimin's birthday, which is usually marked by warm words from Jungkook, suddenly there was not a word. Netizens began to speculate wildly. Was there a quarrel? Is there professional jealousy? But no one expected that the answer is much more complicated and much darker. An internal source who declined to be named gave initial clues to The Independent that there had been a serious incident a few weeks before an internal concert that was supposed to be an emotional turning point for all the members. In this incident, Jungkook and Jimin were allegedly involved in a heated argument involving important decisions regarding solo projects and the management of creative rights to songs they worked on together. According to the information, there was the involvement of a third party, a well-known producer with whom HYBE collaborated, which indirectly provoked a conflict between the two. The producer allegedly leaked the contents of the group's internal conversations to the label, which ultimately led to one of the toughest decisions HYBE management has ever taken against its own members. The most surprising? The decision was not only a restriction on communication, but also a review of the internal contract of collaboration of both. In a sudden press conference held behind closed doors, HYBE's spokesman finally broke the silence. The decision to limit the meeting between Jungkook and Jimin is a temporary measure taken to maintain professionalism and prevent the escalation of internal conflicts that could affect the course of future projects. The statement raises more questions than answers. Internal conflict? Meeting restrictions? All this made the public ask, what really happened between the two friends who had been considered inseparable? Not only that, some enthusiasts with keen eyes began to collect small pieces that had been scattered all this time. Among them is a live recording of Jimin saying some people should know their limits, which is now interpreted as a subtle satire. Meanwhile, Jungkook in his V-Live broadcast simply said, "I don't want to talk about something that could hurt people I was once close to," before shutting down the broadcast with a stressed expression. What makes this situation even more heartbreaking is the emotional impact felt by both parties. Another source from the members' immediate environment mentioned that Jungkook felt betrayed by the management decision, while Jimin felt sacrificed in the drama, which was not entirely his fault. In a stressful atmosphere, fans began to notice how the facial expressions of these two idols changed. There was no longer a warm smile in their eyes when they were in one frame. There is no longer the spontaneous interaction that characterizes their closeness. It's all cold. And what hurts even more, everything feels real. This news quickly spread to different parts of the world. ARMY International began flooding social media with huge question marks. Some defended Jungkook by saying that he just wanted to maintain the quality of the music. Others defended Jimin because they felt he was too often a target in the group's internal conflicts. The hashtags #ProtectJimin and #JusticeForJungkook were trending at the same time, showing how divided the fanbase that has been known as the most loyal and solid in the world is. Media from Japan, the US, to Germany began to highlight how HYBE's decision this time could be a turning point in BTS's history. It's called the cold breakup of K-pop's closest duo. The most heartbreaking question now hangs in the air. Is this the end of Jungkook and Jimin's legendary friendship? Is there still room for recovery? Or will this be a permanent stain on BTS's history? Some industry observers say that HYBE's move could actually backfire. On the one hand, they are trying to maintain stability. But on the other hand, they have indirectly shown that even a group as big as BTS is not immune to internal conflicts that trigger extreme decision-making. Interestingly, after this decree was issued, the individual schedules of both began to be drawn up in such a way as not to overlap. Jimin is scheduled for the promotion of his solo album in Japan, while Jungkook is sent for strategic cooperation with global brands in Europe. Not only that, the creative team that usually handles joint projects between the two is now separated. Is this just a management strategy or a real form of deliberate isolation? At the end of HYBE's statement, a sentence was tucked that made many ARMY shed tears. Both of our artists needed time to reflect, to heal, and to rediscover their individual direction. We ask for your support, not just as fans, but as part of their emotional journey. The sentence sounds like a cover. It's like saying goodbye that you don't want to say. And for the ARMY, it was like an open wound, with no certainty whether it would heal peacefully or be allowed to continue bleeding. Today, Jungkook and Jimin walk different paths. The camera may no longer capture them laughing together, but the memory of their togetherness lingers in millions of fans' hearts. However, the world has changed, and so are they. We can all only hope that behind the scenes, in a space away from the spotlight and public pressure, there is still room to forgive, to heal, and perhaps meet again. But is it really all about personal conflict? Or are there hidden hands deliberately pitting these two most beloved figures of the public against the greater good, darker than fans imagine? Several sources from the K-pop entertainment industry provide shocking testimony. They claim that the conflict between Jungkook and Jimin was not something that came naturally. Instead, there are internal parties who systematically shape that tension, with the aim of creating a narrative of internal drama that can be sold, both to the media and for the sake of marketing their respective solo projects. There were claims that HYBE had realized early on that the members' individual projects would invite friction. Yet instead of resolving the conflict privately, they let it escalate, perhaps even encourage it. This theory is reinforced by the drastic difference in media handling between Jungkook and Jimin in recent months. Jungkook was given a global spotlight with luxury advertising endorsements and collaborations with high-end brands, while Jimin was suddenly marginalized from some important promotional activities he had previously been promised. The question arises that shakes the hearts of many armies. Is this all the result of an industrial strategy that is willing to sacrifice personal relationships for economic gain? A video secretly recorded by staff from one of the shooting locations shows Jungkook refusing to sit in a room with Jimin. His face looked upset, his eyes were empty, and there was a whisper from the manager who said, HYBE has not given the green light for interaction. The visual evidence was never officially published, but was spread among the secretive entertainment journalist community in Korea. One of the most painful words came from Jungkook's mouth as he walked away. I've been tolerant enough, but I also have limits. Does Jungkook feel betrayed by someone he considers a brother? Or is it just a tool in a bigger game? The controversy does not stop there. It was speculated that the main cause of the conflict was Jimin's involvement in making management decisions without Jungkook's knowledge. One of the issues that came to the fore was the struggle for interpretation rights to their collaborative song that was released last year. Jungkook was reportedly not given the opportunity to manage the final part of the production, while Jimin, through a personal relationship with a certain producer, managed to gain more creative control. An act that by some is considered treason, but by others is considered a professional maneuver. And as the public began to question the morality behind all this, HYBE remained unmoved. They withheld all further information, creating a space for wild speculation, which only added to the embers of this emotional conflict. Ironically, this happened while the world was waiting for BTS's reunion moment after all the members completed their conscription obligations. What was supposed to be the hottest moment in the group's history was colored precisely by the chest-stifling Cold War. What goes on behind HYBE's recording studios and boardrooms is no longer just an industry story. It has become a psychological drama, internal politics, and a poison-filled power play. And the two main victims are those we love, Jungkook and Jimin. Behind the scenes came a statement from a longtime HYBE employee who had resigned. He said there is a kind of political framing that is used to direct the public narrative. He said that HYBE has a special team unit that handles crisis management and shapes public perception, with content dissemination algorithms controlled through partner platforms. One of the main targets of manipulation? Public interaction between Jungkook and Jimin. If true, this is no longer about the conflict of two idols. It's a brutal lesson in how the entertainment industry can undermine true friendships for the sake of preserving profit structures, shareholder interests, and global market strategies. Even more surprising was the internal reaction of the other members. Although there is no official statement, signals are beginning to be seen. V was seen to be closer to Jungkook, while RM was caught several times making cryptic comments about the need to maintain trust in the group. Jeon, who is known to be diplomatic, did not mention a single name, but in his live broadcast, he said, "Even among families, the wounds can be deep, but sometimes it's not from the outside." So, should the public still support everything HYBE does? Can we still believe that BTS still stands in the same spirit as before? Or has everything changed, and we see only the shadows of the past defended with illusions? This question is heartbreaking. Because for the ARMY, the relationship between members is not just entertainment. It is a reflection of the values of brotherhood, hard work, and love that touch the hearts of millions of people around the world. Now, with the atmosphere getting more intense and tensions showing no sign of abating, comes the last possibility that is most feared, that this is the beginning of an emotional separation, perhaps even physical. If HYBE decides that it is more profitable for them to be managed individually, is it possible that they will no longer perform together on stage, even after enlistment? Or is it that, as a small part of fans believe, this is all just a big scenario to make their reunion later more dramatic and meaningful? But if so, is it worth playing on the emotions of millions for the sake of a gimmick? This is not just industry news. This is the darkest chapter in BTS's journey, which not even any stage light can clear. And now the world is waiting. Either HYBE will fix everything, or they have opened a Pandora's box that can never be closed again. And like lighting a fire in a dry field, one decision has spawned new embers. Rumors of the involvement of outsiders, including one of South Korea's best-known female celebrities, who is rumored to have a hidden emotional connection with one of them. The name circulated among a limited circle of gossip journalists and die-hard fans who began to unravel the link between Jimin's social media activities and a young female singer who had been seen at the same location as Jungkook at a closed-door HYBE event, but was not listed on the public invite list. This three-way relationship, which until now has not been officially proven, has provoked a wave of dangerous speculation. Some swear that this is the root of the drastic change in Jungkook and Jimin's interaction. That personal, not professional, jealousy was the first spark that finally burned the bridge they had built together for more than a decade. And behind it all, an even darker piece of news begins to strengthen. Allegations that one of the parties, either Jimin or Jungkook, once raised a formal objection to management for feeling emotionally manipulated for content needs. In an internal document that was never released to the public, it was stated that one of the members felt used as a diversion tool by management to relieve pressure from the failure of another major project managed by HYBE. If these allegations are true, then this is not just a dispute between friends, but the exploitation of human emotions for the sake of corporate profit. That IT didn't end there. The culmination of this controversy was the allegation that the ban on meeting between Jungkook and Jimin was actually not just a physical restriction, but rather an attempt at psychological control from the management of two individuals who were too large to be conventionally controlled. In a cruel strategy commonly used in the entertainment industry, the separation of two dominant figures is considered effective to build a new narrative, that they are no longer part of a single collective entity, but rather two different stars ready to be sold with their own personal stories. Analysts of Korean pop culture began to voice concerns that this was the beginning of the systemic disintegration of BTS as a whole, that we are witnessing how financial power and global interests are eroding the foundations of a brotherhood that once inspired millions. This is not just a conflict. It's a covert operation that uses emotion, loyalty, and history as bargaining chips in a cold, soulless boardroom. More than that, came the shocking statement from a former HYBE creative staffer who gave an anonymous interview behind the voice censorship. He said that this conflict actually took place long before the public realized it, but was maintained in a structured way to create a shock effect at the right moment. We were asked to set the schedule with enough tension to make the fans wonder, but not enough to make them angry. It was a game of emotions, he said. And if it's true that way, then this whole dynamic is no longer about two humans, but about the market. Even more disturbing is the involvement of large media outlets who deliberately do not report the details of this conflict openly. Why? Because some of them have a direct relationship with the agency. In other words, the narrative that reaches the public has been filtered, structured, and even manipulated. What we see is a polished reality. Now, as fans wait for clarification directly from the mouths of their idols, both chose to remain silent. Jimin is no longer active on social media as usual. Jungkook only appeared briefly, then disappeared again. Are they silenced? Or do they also not know what to say, having been betrayed by the system that was supposed to protect them? And when all this happened, HYBE actually began to introduce new faces, rookie artists who suddenly got a big spotlight. Does this mean that they deliberately distract from internal conflicts by injecting new sensations into the market? Or are they preparing the world to accept the fact that the era of BTS, as one harmonious whole, is officially over? One thing is clear. There is something that cannot be explained with the word misunderstanding. This is not an ordinary problem. It is a clash between personal integrity and corporate power. And the victims are not only Jungkook and Jimin, but also the fans who have always believed that their togetherness is real, sincere, and unshakable. Now the public can only wait, while feeling an increasingly tense and uncertain atmosphere. Will there be a direct confrontation? Will one of them finally speak up, revealing the truth that has been hidden behind fake smiles on stage? Or will they be forever separated, not because they want to, but because they are pawns in a power game that leaves no place for humanity? Whatever the end, history has changed. We no longer see Jungkook and Jimin as two best friends laughing in each other's arms. We are now witnessing two individuals who once shone together, but are now forced to walk alone, in deafening silence and full of unanswered questions. You think HYBE's hiding something bigger? Is this the beginning of BTS's slow breakup? Voice your opinion in the comments. Don't let this story sink in without clarity. Like, subscribe, and share if you believe that the truth must be told, no matter the risk. Because this time, it's not just fandom that's at stake, but the value of what we've always believed to be togetherness.